Amber Hurdle is the CEO of Amber Hurdle Consulting, a multi-award-winning talent optimization firm that pioneers using both science and marketing principles to strengthen customers' brands from the inside out. Most recently recognized as one of the world's top brand professionals for 2020 by Global Gurus at number 18, Hurdle helps overcome costly business problems like ineffective recruiting, turnover, underperformance, declining morale, and leadership gaps by clearly connecting her clients' people strategy to their business strategy for measurable bottom-line results. She personally understands what it takes to accelerate success as a former teen mom who evolved into a powerhouse businesswoman, having worked with international celebrities, executives, and Fortune 100 companies alike. When Amber is not helping individuals and employers share their unique value, she is momming so hard, embracing her inner gym rat in the weight room and entertaining her family and friends. While she is known for being a super extra dog mom and hot wing snob, Amber Hurdle is best known for connecting personal, employer, and business brands via her proprietary Velvet Machete brand strategy. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. So Amber, what did being a teen mom teach you about branding?
Well, at the time, I had no idea that there was a thing called personal branding. I really didn't have a great concept around just traditional branding. But what I learned along the way that then provided hindsight in the future is that I had to position myself uniquely. I had to prove to my employers or to different opportunities that there was something of great value in order to give me better shifts or more hours or a promotion or a job that maybe I didn't earn on a resume because I didn't have my college degree at the time, those sorts of things. So I started finding the commonalities and how people perceived me. And then I started promoting those strengths. And that took me very far, considering I started out behind the 8 ball. And then as I grew in my career, I realized, oh, that was actually a pretty strategic thing to do, even though it was probably done out of sheer desperation.
You have what I call chutzpah.
Yeah. You can't measure grit on any personality assessment, but some of us have it. So.
Yeah, I share that too.
I bet you do. Common trait for PR professionals.
Yeah, exactly. I think you need to have grit, persistence, and tenacity to be a successful PR professional.
Amen.
So, Amber, how does speaking help establish you as an authority and strengthen your personal brand?
Well, I joke on stage, that I'm the one who got knocked up as a teenager, but who's on stage? I mean, you're listening to me. I've been paid to be on a stage to talk to hundreds or thousands of people. And so, I mean, it is just instant authority when somebody hands you the microphone, but you have to have something of value. You always have to, I mean, just like in any type of PR effort, if you're going to be on stage, it is not about you. It's about the problems that exist in the audience and how can you bring your story or your solutions to solve their problems. And if you're doing that, then everybody walks out of that room edified, and it further strengthens your brand as an expert.
I love that word, edified. That's a it's a really good word. And I think if we can edify the people in our audiences, then they will remember us and we'll be the ones that they think of when they need what we have to offer.
Absolutely.
So I love this. What is your theory about being a bombshell and claiming the stage?
So I created the Bombshell sub brand, the Bombshell Businesswoman, and I just wanted to take that word away from a male image of what a bombshell is, because when I think about a bombshell, it's a woman who walks into a room and all heads turn towards her. And I don't think that it's because she's strikingly beautiful. I think that heads turn towards somebody who walks in their strength, who walks in their truth, who is confident in who she is. So I redefine the term to mean bold, brave, unwaveringly confident female entrepreneur. It evolved into bold, brave, unwaveringly confident female professional as I was invited to come speak to Tractor Supply. And they used my book as a book study. And I went in front of Edward Jones. And, it just resonated with so many women that, like, I don't have to be a voluptuous, sex pot to be a bombshell. Like, I can be exactly who I am. And as long as I own it and I'm confident in it and I leverage that in service to other people, I'm a freaking bombshell.
That is so great. And it's so true that a woman who is confident in herself, it exudes that sense of confidence, and that translates into beauty. And it's like a magnet. You have a certain magnetism that attracts people. And I think that's very true. And I also think that having a strong personal brand attracts the right people and almost deflects the people that you really don't want in your life.
Oh yeah, I turn people off big time. Like, I scare some people, and that's fine. But now, because that's what you want, right? I'm sure, because you know who you are, and it's just like any brand. If I land on a website, that brand specifically wants me to say, yes, this is for me, or no, this is not for me in 30 seconds, because they don't want to deal with me if I'm not going to give them money in the end. And so it's the same thing. I don't want to attract people who are going to distract me or be negative energy or take me down a path or invite me down a path or tempt me down a path that's not my path to go. I would rather attract the right people and opportunities because of my strong personal brand. And when I think about bombshell, I did have some issues around that, because I'm like, I'm not the bombshell. We're all bombshells. And I got a little insecure about it because not everybody understood how I redefined the term. But I learned to do something, and you nailed it. So I'd invite every other woman to do this as well. You said people see you shine. And when you own who you are and you show up in that confidence, people aren't necessarily attracted to your hair or your lips or your legs or whatever. They see your light. And so when somebody tells me, oh, Amber, you're so beautiful, I'm like, first of all, that's never been a thing I've ever been comfortable with, because I like to be known for my brain. But and it's fine if other women like to be called beautiful. I'm not making any judgment here. But what I learned to say in return, instead of feeling uncomfortable, is thank you for seeing my light, because that's what I believe that they see.
Yeah. And that's incredibly attractive. And again, it's magnetic. I like that concept. So what makes recruiting talent difficult in today's job market, and why? And of course, it's even more difficult, I think, during COVID to attract the right kind of talent.
Yeah, I mean, we went from the lowest. Basically, if you wanted to work, you were working. And so it was really hard to attract people away from existing positions that they already held. Well, now it's the opposite. Now the sheer volume of applicants that are coming in is so hard to manage. I mean, how do you filter through all of these different applicants? So for me, just like as and anybody who's listening to this knows, the process of PR and marketing is you have to have data in order to inform your strategy. And so, some companies have loyalty programs where they collect data on you. They might collect data by, how you navigate on the internet. And then they look at that to determine their next steps and how they're going to market to the collective and how they're going to market to you uniquely. And so we have to do that. We have to treat our employee base also as an internal employer brand. And so we have to have data. First of all, we have to have data on who is already on the team, what drives their behavior, what does this unique position need in terms of a behavioral match. I mean, a personality match is definitely something we need to consider when it comes to teams and maybe even how they're going to interact with customers and that sort of thing. But how does the work actually get done? And I'll give you a quick example. When I was 19-ish years old, desperate, had a 3-year-old, definitely needed a steady job, but I was working at the Applebee's and 5 other places. Not really, but at one point I did have 4 jobs. And I had the opportunity, because of the people that I knew, to work at a factory that many people applied and did not get into for like 3 years. And not only did I get this job, but I got a job on first shift, not second or third, first shift. Again, such favor here. And not only did I get this job on first shift, I got it in a refurbishing department, which was way less strict. And it wasn't like that, stereotypical on the line experience. Like you could use the restroom without permission, not shutting down the line. So I get this job. They could have paid for my college in the future if I would have stuck with them. I had full benefits, after a certain amount of time. And it was a very stable work environment. And so it would have really benefited somebody like me who is more in desperation mode. The challenge is that I'm an fiercely independent person. I need a lot of social interaction. I am very fast paced and I like for things to change a lot throughout the day and through, as the days progress. And I'm kind of a rule breaker at the end of the day. Rules to me are more like suggestions. And, some are legal and some are, financial. And so we're going to follow those ones. But the rest of them, that's for everybody who needs rules, not me. So that's my that's my behavioral drives. I was put in front of a place on the line and a television would come in front of me and I would unscrew a screw and check something and screw the screw back in all day, every day. How long do you think I lasted?
Did you last the full day?
Well, not mentally or spiritually, but I lasted about 2 weeks and that's it, because it wasn't that my resume wasn't right. It wasn't that I wasn't a cultural fit. It wasn't that my personality wasn't a great fit. I am not a behavioral fit for the behavioral needs of that particular position. So if we don't have some kind of a structure like, ideal customer profiles that we create, we need ideal employee profiles, but that's unique to each position. I did not fit that employee profile. And if someone was able to measure that about me, they would have known that about me. And then they would not have wasted the money on the hiring process and onboarding me and then the turnover where they're going to have to find somebody to replace me again. That was a cost to them. And now, granted, I'm forever grateful that I was given the opportunity considering how desperate I was, but I couldn't think of a better example to show why having people data is important.
I can so relate to that because at one point when I was in my early 20s, I was working at a ski resort where it got very slow in the summer and they put me in charge of the mail room. So I was in charge of sorting the mail. And in the meantime, there was people out there selling multi-million-dollar condominiums. And I kept saying, I could sell so many condos if you just put me out there with the people, but I cannot for the life of me sort this mail. I just can't. It would kill me. The high point of my day was when the UPS man came and I could talk to somebody.
Yeah. I mean, you're a promoter by nature and you're behind the scenes sorting things. Yeah. And so what's the opportunity cost there as well? For even having data on your people, you can internally recruit, or you can see where maybe somebody is mismatched. You can carve off responsibilities from one role and put it on somebody else's plate that's more suited for that. Like you can be so much more strategic about making sure your people strategy matches your business strategy so you can maximize your efficiencies, but also your economics.
It's so true because there probably were other people there who would have loved to sort mail and that would have been their happy place.
Leaving millions on the table with you not selling.
Exactly. Yeah, I really believe that people will do a much better job if they're doing something that they love and that makes them feel good. So we're in agreement on that. Well, we're going to take a short break, and then we will be back with more from Amber Hurdle after this break about my new online course.
Do you want to grow your client or customer base? Perhaps increase brand awareness? Maybe tell your unique story more effectively? Of course you do. But you may be worried that you don't have enough expertise to make that happen. Well, no worries, PR Maven Nation. Let the PR Maven herself, Nancy Marshall, show you how easy it is to get your message across effectively using a powerful yet simple tool, a message map. Nancy's training is often called informative and constructive, well-designed and impactful, with a perfect blend of theory and real-life experience. You will leverage Nancy's expertise to create your own message map when you register for this comprehensive online video training course, which is broken down into 4 easy-to-understand modules. Normally, this course is priced at $147, but for listeners of the PR Maven podcast, that's you, PR Maven Nation, it's only $29 when you enter the code word podcast during enrollment. It even includes a workbook and bonus content to guide you through the process. So go to prmaven.com and click on the Message Map Mastery course to enroll today. Remember, enter the word podcast during enrollment for a special discounted price of $29.
So welcome back, and today we're talking with Amber Hurdle, CEO of Amber Hurdle Consulting, and I want to dive right back in with more questions. So Amber, what is the difference between a personal brand, an employer brand, and an organizational brand, and why does it matter?
Well, they're all interconnected, and you cannot ignore any piece of that and expect that you're going to get results. So I created the Velvet Machete brand strategy. And so the Velvet Machete concept is about being direct and catching the attention of your audience, but doing it in a way that is appealing to them, where they're going to take action, or where it builds trust. So, that's obviously, in PR, you talk about mutual beneficial relationships and that sort of thing. You're always thinking about how am I framing this? What is the narrative here? And who is my audience? You have to decide that first. So we have to apply that concept of being direct, but also considering the audience when we are looking at the organizational structure. So you have to have strong leaders with strong personal brands, meaning people trust them. They can get discretionary effort out of their team. People trust them to lead them towards a vision. If you have strong leaders who are then leading a strong employer brand with a great culture and very effective recruiting techniques, that they understand that recruiting is indeed marketing, is just a different function of it, then you have a bunch of happy employees who feel a part of something greater that are serving your happy customers. Now, when you have somebody who doesn't just leave at 4:59 and they stay till 5:15 to handle a customer issue, that's the differentiator. That's where you get American Express or Ritz-Carlton level of service, is because you have created that through this whole process. And then when you have happy customers, they're going to be loyal, and you get to hire more strong leaders and develop those personal brands. And it just goes around in a circle, feeding each other. But if one of those things is broken, you've got to triage it in order to get the flow going again.
Yeah, I love that concept of triaging. Yeah, because so often in our work, we need to attend to the issue that's bleeding the worst, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's, if there are customer experience challenges, it might, that might actually, if you reverse into the problem, it might be that the leader in charge of that particular division or department, or maybe even just, the person who had a snafu is led by somebody who did not properly train them, or there is some friction there, or maybe the person isn't on the right seat of the bus. I mean, you can look at a customer service problem and usually track it back to another human being who works for the organization. And so it's important to keep that distinction. It's not just about theory and processes, it's about people processes as well.
Well, that leads me to ask about the difference between the person that you may have interviewed and then the person who shows up once they're settled into the job, sometimes those are two entirely different human beings.
Absolutely. And again, that's where the data really comes in play. We've all had that experience where you interview somebody, and we like to measure head, heart, and briefcase. So their briefcase comes in, they have the pedigree, they went to all the right schools. Then we measure their heart, their values are in alignment with the company values. Like, I went to Auburn, you went to Auburn, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, you love puppies too, me too. And you have that emotional connection, and you're like, this person's going to be amazing. But how they showed up to that interview was not authentically who they were. It was how they thought they were supposed to behave in order to get the job, or how their last boss told them you needed to behave, but it wasn't necessarily in alignment with how they're naturally wired. So they're stressed there. There's only so long that you can exist in that stress of, this is who I am, but this is who I'm pretending to be, before you just have to start showing your cards. And that's not a negative thing. This is nobody's fault. It's just really not being aware of what that person needs in terms of a work environment. And so typically what happens is you have this really great interview, you onboard them, yay raw, the training's going great. And then about day 90, you're like, who are you? I didn't hire you. Where'd you come from? And it's because that stress has gotten so front and center that they have to start behaving normally. And then you start to see, oh my gosh, I need this person behind a computer all day long and they want to go socialize, or I really need this person to take more risks and they're constantly asking me for permission. And so when you have the data, you can, I use a tool called, well, I use multiple tools, but one of the tools I use specifically for hiring and placement is the predictive index. I can see from that report what you look like in terms of like who you actually are, your DNA. This is how you are naturally wired. I can also look at how the past 90 to 120 days has impacted you and how those stressors or conditions have made you adjust in natural or unnatural ways. And then the third graph, I can see just a combination of the two. And that's the person who's sitting in front of me. So I can see like, okay, this is how you're showing up, but this is who you are really. Is this a match for the job? Are you a fit for the ideal employee profile that I've created?
Right. And if you've just had a death in the family, or you lost your puppy, or
Oh,
something
yeah,
has just happened, then that's going to change your behavior in
absolutely.
the short term, right?
And so, and even more so in light of COVID, I mean, I keep saying like my best last year is different than my best this year. Who I am this year looks different than who I was last year. And truthfully, maybe not week over week, but month over month, as we're adjusting and adapting, and whether that's internally to a collective shift in strategy because you have to. I mean, just think about all of these poor hotels and the entertainment industry. I mean, there's certain industries are really being impacted right now, and they're having to take every single day at a time. And so the stress and the adjusting that's going on for everybody right now is extreme. So we really need to understand what comes naturally to you. We really need to know, in light of everything that's going on, will this person be successful? Because they're going to have to flex. How can we make this environment the most natural for them to be successful in?
Right. And certainly during COVID, yeah, you have to be able to pivot, as they say, right?
Yes. Let's all get back to precedented times. We liked those very
right,
well.
exactly. Oh, I am so tired of news stories in these unprecedented times. It's like, come on, give
Get
me
a
a break.
thesaurus.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So using data may seem intimidating to not so tech savvy people. What exactly is people data, Amber?
So that can be anything from, something as homegrown as an exit interview. Like, why are you leaving the company? Is it for your, own professional growth? Is it that something went wrong? That's data. You can start tracking trends on that. Another data point could be an employee satisfaction survey. And of course, as PR professionals, we know that you have to very much formulate questions in a way that doesn't lead people to any type of conclusion, but are very cut and dry type things. So do your homework on that if you're going to home grow that. But the way that I use people data, again, I use assessments. So I love psychoanalytics. And so one of them is a predictive index where I can evaluate your needs so I know what drives your behavior. And then the other one is the Fascination Advantage Assessment. And that is about your personal brand, where Myers-Briggs, which I also love, that measures, along with DISC and others, how do you psychologically see the world? With Fascinate, it measures how the world sees you at your best. So we can start crafting your personal brand more effectively because we know where we're going to play in your strengths. And then equally as important, when I know your behavioral drives and, maybe what you're not so great at, and I also know where you're lacking the ability to truly influence if you were to maybe communicate in this way versus this way. Now I'm going to start bubble wrapping that. I hate strengths and weaknesses. I don't like to talk about weaknesses because I think that we're all uniquely made to be able to serve other people with a distinct set of gifts. And if we can discover that, then we don't have to refer to the other things as weaknesses. You're not weak, you're a very strong person. But there are areas, just like fine china when it's being shipped across the country, that you need to bubble wrap. And so we'll just create environments. That could be people environments, that could be hiring to complement, the areas where I'm not great. That could be that I have to put systems and processes in place in order to protect me from myself. But the bubble wrap issue to me is far more compelling and full of grace than saying we need to work on your weaknesses.
That is such a great visual to talk about shipping fine china across the country. I love that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. We didn't bubble wrap it because there's something that was inherently wrong. It's beautiful china, it's high value, but we're going to protect it with the bubble wrap.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. So how can successful employer brands embrace both marketing and science when building their brand? And why is it so important to use both?
Well, I'm just going to go back to where we began at the beginning of this interview, and that is that in traditional marketing and traditional branding and traditional public relations, you have to have the data first. You have to understand your audience. You have to know what drives them. You have to understand how to emotionally connect with them in order to get them to take some form of action. And so if I'm a brand who wants to have a strong employer brand, then I have to understand what's already going on in the business. So who's on the team already. I have to understand who I need on the team, and I have to be able to create those ideal employee profiles based on the unique positions. And then I have to go out and market. And so here's what happens when people recruit. They slap something up on Indeed and it sounds like this. We are an awesome company. We have a lot of fun and we believe in excellence. Here's a laundry list of job duties for this position. Apply here. There's nothing sexy about that. Like, you are not convincing me of anything. You have not given me any key differentiators of what I should do. So once I know exactly who I'm trying to attract, now I'm going to use words and phrases that are going to emotionally connect with that candidate. And I'm going to turn off the people. Like, I'm not a people person. Heck no, that's not for me. And I'm being really lazy with my words here. You can be far more specific. But like, maybe it's do you have an entrepreneurial mindset, but you like to be a part of something bigger in an organization? Now that's talking very specifically to a very distinct type of personality, of a very distinct drive of behavior. And so I'm going to be like, whoa, they're talking just to me. So we have to start the job posting, the marketing piece, if you will, with about you. Tell the candidate who they are. Suck them in with that. Then it's about us, but don't tell me we aspire excellence and customer service is at the top of our priority list. Like, wonk, wonk, wonks. That, if not, like, you shouldn't be a business. Okay. So what's different about you? Do you have some kind of unique culture? Do you have half day Fridays? Do you have a flex plan on, remote work versus in the office? Are dogs allowed? Like, tell me what makes you unique. Why should I work for you instead of Joe Schmo up the street? So about you, about us, and then the boring stuff. And the boring stuff is more like, must be able to lift 50 pounds, have to have the certification, all the legal jargon that you need to put in there in order to, legally post your job posting, depending on what type of job it is. So about you, about us, and then the boring stuff. And if you think about how Nike or Apple computers or pick any of your favorite brands, Target, they're going to tell you what's in it for you. And then they're going to talk about the features and the benefits and all that kind of stuff. And then they're going to talk about tech specs. So if I'm going to buy an iPod back in the day, it wasn't like, oh, and there's this new device and here's all the cool nerdy things and here's all the tech specs. It was 1,000 songs in your pocket. Do you want one?
Right. And I mean, this goes right back to what we were talking about, how a strong brand will attract the right people and deflect the wrong people. So if you describe the company and describe the person you're looking for, it's going to attract those people. So it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Amber, what are some of the biggest and most common employer brand mistakes that you see companies make?
Not having one, having a culture that gets put in a drawer, having a culture that doesn't live and breathe every single day. I mean, if you have a culture, if you have a mission and vision, if you have values, then that should be articulated in all that you do. As you hire, that should be part of your interviewing questions. If you're coaching and counseling or doing any form of discipline, it should sound like, instead of Bob, you need to stop being late, because that's a rule. Well, that's not compelling. But what if you sit Bob down and say, Bob, in the past week, you've been late twice. And so Larry wasn't able to leave because he had to cover for you and he was late to his night school. And he's working on his MBA and that's really important to him. And that broke the value of teamwork. We're all in this together. And in order for us to work as a team, you have to do your part. Do you see how that broke trust with Larry? And then Bob goes, oh, yeah, man. He didn't break a rule. He let another human being down because we tied that culture piece into the discussion. It wasn't, I don't like you, Bob, or you're annoying me, Bob. There's no emotion involved. It's you agreed to these set of family rules upon working here. And when we break the family rules, it impacts the entire family. And so looking for those ways when you recognize somebody, you could give somebody an award or, customer comments, or this person left a comment and they said that Samantha did an excellent job. It was the best customer service call that person ever had. And that aligns with our focus of excellence. It's about providing the best. It's about never settling for anything less than what we know our customers ideally want. And so every single time there's an opportunity to talk about what that organization values and where they're going in the future and why they even exist, that needs to be infused.
Well, I love the way that you describe how the culture can dictate an employee's behavior, because if you bring behavior back to the culture, and as you said, the example with Bob and Larry, rather than saying you're a bad person for being late, you have actually broken down trust in a culture where we have teamwork and we try to respect each other. So that makes a lot of sense. I can totally see how that would work.
Yeah. And then the people who don't buy into the culture, they'll self-identify and then they'll leave, and that's good for you.
Yeah, right.
That's also
exactly.
good for your brand.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to the right brand, or branding, attracting the right people and deflecting the wrong people.
Absolutely.
This has been so fascinating. I'm so glad that we connected. And if people want to follow up and hear more from you, what's the best place for them to find you?
AmberHurdle.com is where you can find all of my social media handles. I'm certainly I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. YouTube, our future podcast, which hopefully I'll have you as a guest on, will be able to be found there. And then if you want to take a free assessment and have a conversation about implementing uniting science and branding in your business in a not scary way, then you can go to amberhurdle.com and /predictive-index. And you can take that free assessment and it'll let you know exactly what drives your behavior. So it'll be a fun piece of self-awareness and then maybe give you some food for thought of what that would look like in your organization.
Oh, that's great. So Amber Hurdle, and it's HURDLE.com
Right.
/predictive-index. Well, that sounds like a really great offer. Thanks for extending that to members of PR Maven Nation. Well, thank you for your time today, Amber. I so appreciate it. I know you're very busy and you have a lot going on.
It's been a crazy week.
That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.